Welcome to the Londoners News Spring Edition. I'm Yumna.
And I'm Jacob.
And today we've got a brilliant show in store for you.
From rowing clubs to dance classes, and from independent perfumeries to model railway clubs, today's broadcast is filled with vibrant stories of culture, community, and charity from across the capital.
First up, we have Keiley to talk about her story on a new National Gallery exhibit in Croydon and the conversation around opportunity and regeneration.
Croydon is hosting works from the National Gallery as part of a project bringing world-renowned art beyond central London. Projects like this form part of a wider push to invest in culture at a local level.
So National Gallery Art on Your Doorstep is all about bringing world-class art to everyone across the UK. So we're here in Croydon because we wanted to bring the public collection. It is people's collection. It's art for everyone. And we wanted to bring it to people in their everyday lives, stumbling across it in parks or in the town centre, when they're walking to the station or walking to work or to school, so that everyone can enjoy art, really. We knew that people really want to see these artworks, but often travel can be a barrier for a lot of people, and often people don't have the resources to come to the gallery, so we know we wanted to bring them out to the people. In Croydon, some of these artworks were selected by local people, by local communities, and it was quite fun. One of the paintings, a Picasso, they said it looks like the borough of Croydon on the map, so that was why it was chosen of one of the paintings. So there's lots of local relevance as well as personal relevance for people, so there's something everyone can take. It's also important to us that people feel kind of a pride in the place that they're in as well, and these paintings coming here, hopefully they can see how lovely this park is generally and spend some more time here as well, and all of these public green spaces that you have in Croydon, that we've put these reproductions in. Everyone can see them, that they are a lovely space, and that Croydon is a great place to be.
Local leaders believe access to art and culture can open up opportunities, build confidence and support young people's development.
I think things like this just give young people a sense of what's possible. It opens up new horizons and opportunities. It might spark a bit of inspiration. You might get a young person who decides to make a bit of online content for it, or they may decide to pick up, a paintbrush or charcoal. This is all about just expanding people's horizons and letting them know that art can be for everybody. The government's got the National Youth Strategy that they launched last year, and the whole idea about that is ensuring that we've put spaces for young people back into communities and invest in young people. Over the last 10 years, we've seen £1 billion taken out of things like youth services. So things like youth clubs, access to extracurricular activities have been stripped away over the last decade. And we have to put those things back into communities, especially like this one in New Addington, because our young people deserve to try new things, to learn if they're good at art or if they're good at drama. The only way you learn about doing those things is by doing them, so we have to give them those opportunities. Now look, Croydon's had massive challenges over the last few years, and I think culture is one of the ways in which has kept Croydon as a community together. If you think about the kind of cultural impact of Croydon as a borough, it far punches way above its weight when you compare it to other boroughs. If you think about the Brit School, you think about the Grammy Award winners that this place has created, you think about the supermodels and the artists and the actors that Croydon has created. This place, despite its struggles, is a cultural powerhouse, and it should be something that we celebrate. This is not just the cultural powerhouse of London. This is a really special place, and not to be anti-rest of London, but South London is the best part of London anyway, and this sort of project sort of highlights that.
But with many major creative industries still centred in central London, questions remain over how far initiatives like this can translate into long-term opportunities.
I think definitely having more access to art and culture is making a difference to people in Croydon. However, I don't think there's enough. Like for me personally, a lot of my opportunities are still in central London. So as someone who lives in Croydon, I'm still having to commute into central London for a lot of the better opportunities. Like they're arising in Croydon, but they're not as good as the ones like elsewhere. So that means that it becomes inaccessible because people are still having to commute, and not everyone can do that. My entire life is performing. I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a director. So like my entire career that I want to go into is creativity. So like the arts is very important to me. Croydon is becoming very gentrified right now, and kind of these projects make Croydon seem like a nicer place to be in, and I do think that will have a positive impact on the community.
Keiley Rainey for the Londoners News.
Thank you, Keiley. Your video really made me want to visit the exhibition. So why are initiatives like this important in areas such as Croydon?
So outer London boroughs like Croydon have often less direct access to major cultural institutions like galleries. Croydon itself has gone through economic and reputational challenges, so cultural investment is really a big part of their regeneration. In 2023, Croydon was actually the London Borough of Culture. However, there was debate surrounding this if this was used effectively, as a lot of it was invested into business. Projects like this can help change perceptions of an area, and I think that's very important for Croydon itself. They also provide exposure and inspiration, especially for young people interested in creative careers.
So how does cost and travel affect access to the arts and culture?
So travelling into central London can be expensive. I think everybody knows that, especially for young people. Return train, tram, tube fares, bus fares, they all add up very quickly. Even though many galleries are free, the hidden cost is travel. Also, it can be quite time consuming, which can be a barrier for students but also families. So bringing exhibitions into boroughs like Croydon removes that barrier and makes access more immediate and local.
Yeah, I totally understand the travel cost. It is very, very expensive. So saying that, then why did the National Gallery choose to bring it to Croydon specifically?
So from the National Gallery, they said it's part of them trying to reach people outside of central London. So obviously Croydon is still in London, but it's Greater London. The idea is to make world-class art more accessible to communities that wouldn't normally visit big galleries. So there's a big focus on education, outreach, and getting younger people involved in the creative community. It also reflects how galleries and cultural institutions are trying to be more inclusive and connected to local communities. So the exhibition finishes in Croydon on the 5th of July, but if anybody doesn't get to see them in Croydon, you can go to Brentford on September 4th if you do miss it.
So just like you said, the National Gallery talked about wanting to reach more people, but how have the people actually responded?
So it's genuinely been quite a positive reaction. People appreciate having high quality art locally, but some see it as a sign that Croydon is being invested in culturally, with people saying that it's bringing beauty to their streets and public spaces, and it makes them stop, think, feel and admire. However, there are mixed views, as there always is, so some people don't feel like it fully addresses deeper issues, like lack of long-term opportunities, and younger voices are highlighting that most creative industries are still centred in central London.
And then when you went there, did you find a piece that stood out to you?
I think my favourite piece was Whistle Jacket by George Stubbs. It's a really, really big painting of a horse, and it was placed in Park Road Park, which is a giant green space. And the impact of it being placed where it was looked like it was jumping over a fence. And I think that was just really striking, and it made the image more engaging.
So do you think the exhibition goes far enough, and what do you think needs to happen next?
I think it improves access in the short term, but it doesn't fully solve structural issues. So many opportunities in creative industries are still based in central London. So for real impact, projects like this need to be consistent. That means continued investment in local cultural programmes, but also creating clear pathways for young people to take that inspiration further, whether that's through education, training or careers. Without that long-term support, the impact risks being short-lived.
Thank you, Keiley, for joining us. Next, we have Evie at Battersea's Arts Centre's Bloom Festival, and the importance of creating an accessible space for unconventional forms of art.
Despite local theatre struggling up and down the country, Battersea Arts Centre's Bloom programme has flourished in its third year of the festival. The programme celebrates cutting-edge performances and genre-defying work developed within the Battersea Arts Centre. I spoke to programme producer Ella Gamble to find out what Bloom is all about and why it is so important for audiences and risk-taking creatives.
Bloom is a new sort of programme that we're running at BAC. It's in its third year now. It is an intervention into the usual kind of programming that we do, where we open up different spaces in the building, not just our theatre spaces. So we've got rehearsal rooms and different space around the building activated. Bloom is different to a traditional arts festival, probably because of the work that we are putting into it. So these are works that have been brought to our attention because they don't fit a usual programming format. So standardly, a program requires a show that will sit in front of an audience for an hour and a half, will play for a week-long run, and then it will end. Our shows in Bloom, they might be for one audience member. They might run throughout many different spaces in the building. They might last 5 hours rather than one. So it's all work that requires like an alternative programming model, and they're all extremely formally experimental. The performances that audiences can expect to see is probably defies expectation a little bit. You're going to see work that travels through the building. You're going to be taken by the artists into interactive exhibitions. So yes, there's a performative element to it, but there's also visual arts involved, sort of performance actions happening throughout. Bloom is curated through our creative development model at BAC. So we, throughout the year, are offering space to artists to come and make in our building. And as part of the package that we offer, we really make the commitment to get to know those artists, to get to know their practices, and to learn what they need and what they're looking for in terms of professional development and presentation opportunities. The curation of Bloom happens before we curate Bloom. It's happening through the relationships that we're building throughout the year. So when we come to think about what shows we want to put together, it's not just about the shows, but it's about those relationships that we've developed. I think they matter because they're an opportunity to try your work in front of audiences in a context that is a little bit less risky than a full run. You know, if you've got a week's run to sell out, a lot of your focus is going to be on a finished product. It needs to hit a certain sales target. It needs to be impactful to audiences in a certain way. This festival is all about creating space for risk, experimentation, testing things out, getting things in front of audiences, seeing how it feels, using it as an opportunity to develop your network, develop your artistic practice, and a place to fail as well, and know that that's okay and that's actually positive, that's part of a creative process. There isn't a particular theme that runs throughout Bloom, but definitely what hangs it together is that they're formally innovative works where audiences are going to be impacted through what they see, but also the messages behind the works as well. These are works that are critically rigorous and formally inventive, and it feels important that they're presented now in this moment, both for the artists and for the audiences. I think what excites me the most about this year's festival is seeing how it's grown. So it started off its life just presenting a few works as a double bill against a main show in like our bigger studio space, and over the years it's now like grown and stretched itself out, so now it takes over 2 weekends. We've got 4 or 5 different spaces in the building activated, and it's a response from audiences as well, because this isn't just somewhere for artists, it's also about audiences. It's about audiences having a space to come together, to build community, to feel part of a kind of wider cultural ecosystem. So the festival's been programmed in such a way that people come and stay and linger in the building. They might see 1 or 2 pieces, there's space in between for conversation. So I'm hoping that it's like engaging in Bloom Festival is also a creative experience for audiences too.
Bloom runs from the 7th to the 16th of May and promises a unique experience of unconventional art pieces. Evie James, Londoners News.
So Evie, that festival looked great and definitely lived up to the promise of being unconventional. But why do you think local theatres are so important to big cities like London?
Local theatres are really important because they give communities a cultural space that feels accessible. Like big West End productions are a huge part of the theatre scene in London, but smaller venues allow newer artists to experiment with ideas that might not work in commercial venues. So it provides really valuable variation for audiences as well as providing opportunities for young creatives.
And then do you think experimental or unconventional theatre appeals more to younger audiences rather than older?
I think it does, because younger audiences are more open to interactive or unusual experiences, especially within theatre. A lot of contemporary theatre uses multimedia, audience participation or immersive staging. Think Jamie Lloyd's Evita that was recently on in the West End, that had a song performed on a balcony outside of the theatre and was streamed to the audience on a screen inside the theatre. That sort of thing, choices like that, can feel more engaging to people who have grown up surrounded by digital media.
So speaking on engagement, do you feel like festivals like Bloom or maybe even Edinburgh Fringe make theatre more accessible?
Definitely. Festivals often create a more relaxed, welcoming environment than traditional theatre spaces, and they showcase a much wider range of artists and styles, which gives audiences a chance to experience forms of theatre they might not normally experience. And there's also a hefty price tag that comes with traditional theatre these days. Most West End or touring productions are not financially accessible to a lot of people, especially young people, but festivals are often more affordable, and like with Bloom, they do a pay what you can model for the tickets, so you can still support the arts and the festival without having to worry about the cost.
That's really amazing that they do that. And then what challenges are smaller art venues currently facing?
I think unsurprisingly, the major challenge is funding. Many smaller venues rely on grants, ticket sales, support from the community, so rising costs can make it really difficult for small venues to survive. And they're also competing with online entertainment and changing audience habits. People don't need to leave their house or even leave their own bed for entertainment, and a lot of venues struggle to rebuild audiences after the pandemic. But smaller theatres are as important as ever, and they're so often the spaces where new talent and innovative work develop.
So speaking on a change in audience habits, why do you think people should choose live entertainment over streaming something online or maybe just doom scrolling on TikTok?
Yeah, I think live theatre offers a shared experience that is just impossible to replicate online. When you're in an audience, there's something about reacting in real time alongside other people, and every performance feels slightly unique. And there's something so powerful and special about seeing a performance physically in front of you. Streaming content and social media are great and they're convenient, but live theatre is so much more than just watching something on a screen.
Well, you've made me really want to go to the theatre now, so thank you for joining us, Evie. And now there's been a rise in loneliness for people with disabilities due to a lack of activities to help them feel included and part of a community. To spread awareness and show how people can get involved, our reporter Macie Lewis went to Hertsmere Mencap to find out more.
People with disabilities can often feel lonely and lack confidence, but with movement and fitness, it has been found that they can develop their confidence and be part of a community. Mencap revealed that 1 in 3 people with learning disabilities spend less than 1 hour outside their home on a typical Saturday. I wanted to understand more about the importance of fitness for people with disabilities and how organisations can adapt to cater for different needs. I went to Hertsmere Mencap, who provides services for people with learning disabilities by creating an inclusive community.
It's been unbelievable to witness the development in our members' confidence. Just coming somewhere regularly on a weekly basis with their friends in a safe space where they can just be themselves with no judgment amongst familiar faces. For them to know they can do something, the small steps is a huge confidence builder. Just to let themselves loose in the music just for an hour a week is unbelievable, and their confidence is growing. I've had members that have come and for the first week or two just been in the corner, not joined in the main group, and within, I would say, 3 or 4 sessions, they're there centre stage, which is unbelievable. I just find it incredibly rewarding just to be able to enrich the lives of learning disabled people. Even in this dance class, I have a member doing the register, I have the members choosing the music theme week on week. It really empowers them. It's really important that I ease them in slowly. They are asked if they want to be introduced to the wider group as an announcement, or if they just want it all a little bit quiet. We are all entitled to have a bad day, and if they just want to sit, tap their feet and listen to the music, that's fine.
I spoke to members of the classes to get their thoughts. They were first asked why they like to come to these classes.
Because it's very good for my mobility, and I enjoy meeting new people.
I like them.
Because I really enjoy dancing.
Yes, we really enjoy dancing.
And meeting people.
Sport is vital for people with disabilities, and Hayley told me why.
There's a number of reasons why these classes are so important to people with disabilities. It gets them out, it gives them a bit of structure in their week. That's really important for their mental health and their well-being. A lot of my members would be happy to be sitting down and not moving much. So to actually put on some music and to move, be it just tapping their feet or really getting into it, physically benefits them. They leave here smiling and full of energy, even if they've walked in frowning. People with disabilities can feel very lonely. They have the awareness perhaps that they are different. It makes them feel quite isolated from the real world. There's not a lot of activities on offer for them to be part of, which is why what we do is so important.
When I spoke to the members again, I found out how these classes benefit them.
It's made me lose weight, it's got me a little bit fitter.
Moving. Something different, and to come out
Keep fit.
and keep fit, yes.
After speaking to the members, I heard from the dance aerobics leader, Angie Bluffield, who aims to support people with disabilities through dance. Angie revealed why dance is so important for them.
They're very excluded from certain activities, so trying to make something inclusive they can join in to keep fit and active, stay healthy is so important for them, plus the community side of being with other people and having that social interaction. Occasionally there can be behavioural issues that might interrupt the flow of the class, but the support workers are very good along with our volunteers in redirecting them and just trying to come up with moves and be inventive in ways that everybody can be included, whether you're seated, standing, no matter what the disability or ability, everyone gets something out of the session. So rather than saying reach your arm up, you might say reach one side higher, so that it's not specific limbs or parts of the body. Other things is just being very general about moving in a certain direction but not being specific how to do the move, so everyone gets their own ability to move in the way they feel comfortable. Dance gives something for people with like-minded interests of music to be able to come together and enjoy the music, enjoy moving, and it's just very beneficial for them.
After learning how important these classes are for people with disabilities, I wanted to hear from them to understand more.
It keeps me motivated, exercising.
It's good exercise.
Makes you happy.
Yes, it does make you very happy.
Macie, that was a really nice video, and it was great to see how charity can use dance to help people build a sense of community. But for those who don't know, what is Mencap?
So Mencap is a national charity. It's been founded in 1946 by a mother of a child with learning disabilities. Her name was Judy Fried. And it was created to make an inclusive environment for people with disabilities, and they work with families and partners as well to provide support and services with the help of volunteers and full-time staff. So Angie and Hayley, who were in my video, they're full-time staff, and Hayley actually joined Mencap because her son has learning disabilities and she wanted an organisation where he could feel like he can fit in and feel supported.
So when you went to film this, how did you put the members at ease before filming them?
So I went a week beforehand to meet all the members, and then introduced myself, told them why I was there, what I was going to do filming for the week after. I was able to meet all the members as well and hand out consent forms, and they could sign that off so they could be on camera. This helped for the interviews too, because they ended up knowing me, feeling at ease in front of the camera, so when I went the week later with all my gear, they knew exactly who I was, they weren't afraid, and ever since then I work near the class and I live near the class. Every time I've seen them, they always say hello to me and we chat, and we've still got a relationship to this day, which is really nice.
So how does Mencap fill the gap of there not being enough social spaces for disabled people?
So yeah, they advocate and campaign for and help people with learning disabilities know their rights when it comes to education, work, travel, housing, support and healthcare. So it's not just exercise, they try to help them in all different aspects. And they have other classes, including art classes, which appeal to different interests as well. But yeah, it's not just about exercise, it's about the community and the friendships that build within. So it helps people with disabilities as it creates a safe space for them to get out of the house, have some fun and make some friends. It's also accessible for people with disabilities, which helps make it more appealing, as some standard exercise classes may not be able to facilitate as well for them. So yeah, it's really inclusive in that sense and brings them towards the class.
Okay, and then in London specifically, how many classes do Mencap do to support people with disabilities?
Yeah, so in London, of course it is national, but in London they have locations in Kensington, Willesden, Leighton, Greenwich, Barnet, Hammersmith and Fulham, and they have running classes, walks, cycling, golf, dancing, so a big variety for them to choose from. But at Hertsmere Mencap, which is a branch which I visited, there are 7 sessions a week for people with disabilities to attend. Each one is different, and this breaks down into 5 daytime sessions and 2 evening social clubs. And adding to all of this, they are as popular as each other, with around 20 attendees weekly, and they also have a youth club with just over 10 attendees.
So it seems like Mencap's doing a lot to sort of bring a sense of community for the disabled community. But why do you think it's important to raise awareness towards people with with disabilities feeling lonely?
Yeah, so Mencap actually revealed that 77% of disabled people aged 18 to 14 reported that they feel lonely, and another organisation, Sense, found that 70% of disabled people say their mental health is affected by social isolation. So Mencap aims to form a community for these people so they can build friendships and exercise at the same time. And people should be aware of this feeling and how there are events to help people with disabilities feel like they are part of a community. It can also inspire people with disabilities who may not feel as confident to join a group or get out of the house to go out and do something, make friends, meet people. And it can help other groups find ways to make their own classes more accessible for people with disabilities to get involved. So from what I've learned, I think that other groups can learn a bit from how Mencap work with disabled people. This is due to other companies and classes learning how to do more to include people with disabilities. Perhaps they can collaborate with charities like Mencap has to improve their understanding on how to make disabled people feel integrated into sporting activities.
Well, Macie, thank you for joining us. It was great to hear all the great work that Mencap's doing. But speaking of getting people out of their houses, it's now time for my story on the oldest model railway club in the world and why more and more people are seeking a third space in the age of screens. 3 years ago, the headlines were already writing the obituary for model railway clubs across the country. In a city obsessed with speed, screens, and the next big thing, building miniature steam engines by hand might sound like something from a bygone era. However, step inside Keene House on a Thursday evening, and that sentiment may begin to wobble off its tracks. Founded in 1910, the Model Railway Club is the oldest of its kind in the world. The club has now around 300 members, with dozens in its young model club for under 18s, and the number of new faces here is growing each week. It has survived 2 world wars, economic downturns, and the complete transformation of King's Cross around it. To understand what makes this club so special, I spoke to Chairman Karen Hobbs and 2 long-time members about community, patience, and what keeps them coming back.
We act as an outlet for their interest, and they like to be together, to be able to talk about that interest, to play together. Because when we see them on the test tracks, every so often they'll, usually towards the end of the session, I won't say it becomes silly, but they'll invent their own little games as to, sort of how long a train of coaches they can, their engine will pull. Or one day we had I don't know whether they've been on their WhatsApp group. There was a whole load of tank wagons. It was literally a set of one train with a set of tank wagons that went all the way around the test track in all different colours, and it was wonderful to see. It was wonderful to see them working together.
Despite its origins as a hobby for the wealthy, visitors from all walks of life are welcome. There's a workshop downstairs, a library with thousands of books, and a bar where engines run beside pines. The biggest model in the workshop is Copenhagen Fields, a meticulous recreation of 1930s King's Cross that has been in construction for over 40 years.
The exhibition was held in Easter 1963, and I think I remember my mother told me to that because I was interested in trains. Little did I know that years later I'd be a member and even more surprisingly chairman of the club. But like a lot of people, I was quite active in my teenage years. Then you go reach 18, in my case university, competing attractions like beer and girls and things like that. And like a lot of people of that age, sort of the hobby took a back burner. Then in my early 40s, close to where I live, I came out and I saw an advert on a lamppost for the exhibition at Alexandra Palace. I thought, let's go and see what that's like. And yes, sort of restarted my interest in the hobby.
Across England, participation in hobby clubs has declined over the past decade, with numerous communal spaces and social groups closing down. Yet here, people show up every week. For some, it's nostalgia, for others, it's a way to pick up a new skill, but for many, it's something simpler: company.
On a Thursday, we normally have 50 to 60 people that are members of the club. We've got people throughout the world. We've got members in Belgium, America, Ireland, most counties in the UK that we've got members. It's skills. It's the skills. People like playing trains. You can run trains to a timetable, and you can. There's always rule number one in model railways. It's my railway layout. I run what I like.
What was once seen as an old man's pastime is finding new life as something else entirely. And as members prepare to exhibit their craftsmanship at the National Exhibition Centre, it's clear this community is on track for success.
It's the big exhibition we're involved with. It's quite hard work, but it's actually quite fun. And it's a bit like a kind of theatre performance. So the layouts that are going certainly are more stressed because they want to make sure they've got everything right, everything is prepared. The little bits, there are always little bits you can do to a layout, either a maintenance. They do require a certain amount of maintenance, and because they're shifted around all the time, things break and so on. And also, if you're building a new bit or extending a bit, you want to get that bit finished. You've done all the preparation, you've done rehearsal. Probably our rehearsals are a little bit longer than for the average play. And then you're showing to a general public.
For more than 100 years, the Model Railway Club has been running not on steam, but on community, passion, and quality time. Jacob Antigha, Londoners News.
Well, that sounds like a super fun club to be a part of. Could you tell me why news outlets speak about the end of hobby clubs 3 years ago specifically?
Yeah, so around 3 years ago, it was in early 2023, there was a post on Reddit just about general sort of death of hobby clubs and whether it's just sort of becoming people just doing it in their rooms now rather than actually going out. And then all the different hobby club news outlets picked it up, and obviously one of those would be for model railways. So yeah, that's why I chose that angle.
Oh, I see. And so then you mentioned how the club's now growing week on week. What is the youth engagement for hobby clubs in general across the country?
Yeah, so 2 years ago there was a research that was published called the Youth Endowment Fund, and it found that 84% of young people aged 13 to 17 in England, Wales and Northern Ireland regularly participate in at least one hobby club once a month.
That's amazing. It's great to see that there's an increase, probably since the past few years. So then how are hobby clubs like the Model Railway Club able to run, especially given how many facilities the building has?
Yeah, so the stereotype of being a rich man's hobby doesn't come from nowhere, because it costs around £70 a month to join the Model Railway Club in King's Cross. However, particularly for young people, it's a bit more affordable as it's only £50 a year, which is under what, like £10 a month, so getting a pretty good bargain. And as well, they rely on donations and subsidies from like Islington Council, and donations of like goods as well as money.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're trying to make it accessible for young people, especially. That's really important. So then, at the end of the video, the ex-chairman spoke about the exhibition at Alexandra Palace. Do you know how that went?
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, I went myself. So it started off sort of like a slow, casual day. They all got there early. They were mainly setting up all the banners and the buntings and the glass cabinets, and then it was like delicately moving. There was like 4 people trying to move like one train carriage, and some of the paint hadn't even dried, so they were like, how, should we let them dry a bit? But as for the vibe, it was sort of like friendly competition, because obviously it's still, even though it's growing now, it's still quite a niche hobby.
Yeah.
So you end up knowing each other, and a lot of them have moved up and down the country into different clubs. But obviously there is that element of competition to it. Everyone wants to be the best. But yeah, afterwards we all went and got a pint together and talking about who had the best trains and what we could learn from each other.
That sounds really nice. And earlier on you were talking about how now hobbies are tending to happen in your bedroom or at home. So with this then, why do you think having a third space is important?
Especially in London, I think a lot of people fall into the habit of sort of getting up, getting ready, going to work, coming home, and then maybe like once every weekend they'll go out with their friends. And obviously once a week does sound a lot when you say it, but then when you think that's like 52 days out of like almost 400, you're actually going out of your house. It seems like little. So I think, yeah, just finding any reason to get out of the house and do something that isn't actually requires a phone screen. Like, you know, it takes time. You're not rushing through the painting. Sometimes it takes them like 2 weeks to paint a single tree, just to get all the shadings of the browns and the greens. And especially, like, I remember there was one, we recorded the video in late winter, but they were doing it for an exhibition this autumn, so they had to paint the trees orange and like all different hues as it be autumn. But yeah, and I also think there was a lot of international students there who had recently come. They might not have spoken the best English, but their love for trains was sort of like a universal thing, you know. So I think even on that angle, it's really good way to make friends, especially if you don't know anyone in the area.
Yeah, I think, again, that is just super important, and you've made me really want to go to one of these clubs, so thank you for joining us. Now, we have Heidi here to tell us about the 100th anniversary of the Head of the River Race, a huge rowing event held in March every year on the River Thames.
2026 marks 100 years of one of the most iconic events in British rowing, the Head of the River Race. What began in 1926 as a way to test teams coming out of winter training has grown into a competition that brings hundreds of teams to the Thames every spring. The race was founded by Steve Fairburn, who believed mileage makes champions, and 100 years later, that philosophy still defines the event, but on a much larger scale. To see how that legacy continues today, I spoke to Helen Brown, Director of Rowing at Twickenham Rowing Club.
Head of the River Race is a massive event that happens on the tidal river stretch of the Thames. So we are semi-tidal at Twickenham. The stretch down in Putney is the tidal bit of the Thames from kind of Hammersmith through to Putney side, and it's hundreds of boats all at national level trying to compete both for winners of school age groups, of club level, of elite, and you will have the top boat that won it. They're mainly in the national team, so our Great Britain rowers, all the way through to some people that are development at the bottom end, just learning and kind of 1 year on. So hundreds of crews, and it happens in March, and it's kind of the culmination of our winter's training. Everyone in the nation comes together and races. Who's Twickenham Rowing Club? We are a community club where we have members that are from all ages, from the age of 12 with our junior programme, that are thriving, wanting to enjoy themselves, through our senior squad that obviously competed at the Head of the River, and they're in their kind of 20s and 30s, and a couple of them were slightly older. And then we also have our master squads, and our masters athletes go all the way up into their 80s, and we're all about trying to be a community and one club. So no one kind of gets left behind, and we're all in it together. So how this year compared to previous years, especially being the 100th anniversary, for us as a club, we were really trying to target having 2 solid boats going out. So we did that. We managed to keep our distance between us and the winners, which was our aim, because we can't necessarily control how many people enter. It was full of energy. It was a good day. Obviously, everyone was trying to get the win, and it was awesome. The guys got little medals afterwards to say that they'd obviously been part of the centenary. And yeah, it was just a really good vibe. And I think it's always a day where the rowing community gets to get together, have a good laugh, obviously compete at the highest level, and then there's obviously some social that happens afterwards as well, naturally. I'd say the Head of the River Race is more important to me than perhaps what most of community think of in terms of rowing. Most people think of particularly the Oxford-Cambridge boat race, and I feel the Head of the River Race actually symbolises more of what our sport is about. It's about clubs like ours, people that come from a whole array of backgrounds, that might not have been to university, may never go to university, alongside others that obviously might have even been part of the Oxford-Cambridge boat race, coming together, being shoulder to shoulder and working on the same goal. There's no barrier there. The barrier is just getting yourself into a club and learning the sport, which more often than not is cheaper than going to a gym, for example. And a lot of people spend a lot of money on that when you could be part of a multi-generational community. And if you learn the sport, after 2 years, you could find yourself on the start line too. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is
it represents more of what our community is about and what our sport is about as well. And hundreds of people from all backgrounds coming together, all for the same purpose.
Twickenham Rowing Club's A team finished 144th overall in the Head of the River race, an improvement on their time from 2025. The race will return in March next year to once again deliver drama, endurance and tradition. Heidi Munn, Londoners News.
So Heidi, that was a very entertaining video and it was really cool to see all those boats and it seemed really fun. But for viewers who are new to it, what actually is the Head of the River race?
So it was a race that was founded by Steve Fairbairn in 1926, and he was famously a director of rowing like all along the Thames. Everyone knew who he was. And so it was created to test how teams' winter training had actually gone, because most events are held in the summer and then they go back in the winter to train up for those summer events. So it's one of those big events where everyone gets together to see how their training went. And it's one of the biggest rowing events in London. So in 1926 they only had 27 teams, and then this year they had 375. So it's a time trial down a 6.8 kilometre stretch of the Thames from Mortlake to Putney. And a time trial is essentially they're racing the clock rather than each other. So they're racing to get the quickest time, and that's normally around 20 minutes. So it's definitely intense.
I can imagine. So in the Head of the River race, who actually takes part?
Well, so it's a huge event. You've got, so like I said, 375 crews from Olympic level to junior and to a whole different range of skill levels. And so with there being 375 teams, that means that this year there were around 3,000 people taking part, rowers and coxes. Obviously not all at the same time, so that would be a bit crowded. But that mix is what makes it special. It's definitely an elite sport, but it's more of an community event. So when I spoke to Helen, she actually told me about how her teams aren't made up of all those professional athletes. They're actually some people who took up rowing as a way to get away from the city for the weekend and practice at 6 a.m. in Twickenham instead.
So compared to other races, what makes this one so special?
So it's definitely the scale and atmosphere. There's nothing quite like seeing that many boats on the river and like that many people standing and supporting on the sides, whether they're in pubs or whether they're just watching or their family. And when I was there at the actual finishing line at Putney, there were so many people who kind of stumbled across the event and all of them would stop because it's such a spectacle to see. And it's definitely more of a celebration of the sport and a community event rather than a competition. It kind of loses that aspect in a really nice way. And with rowing being a sport that's more commonly associated with like rich white men, it definitely brings in a different crowd, and that's really nice to see, like being an inclusive sport as well.
Yeah, I mean, inclusivity is so important, especially in sport. So who usually then wins the Head of the River race?
So it's typically dominated by your kind of usual group of top UK rowing teams, which are packed with international level athletes. So those people that you'd actually be like seeing go to the Olympics and stuff like that. So this year the winner of the Fairbairn Cup, Fairbairn being obviously the name of the founder, was Leander Club A, and they're actually the world's most successful single sport club. So you can imagine why they won it. And they actually finished 9 seconds ahead of the runners-up, which was Oxford Brookes University A. So they're definitely dominant in the sport.
So sort of springing on from my question earlier, everyone's heard of the boat race, but how does the river race differ from it?
So they're quite different, even though they're on the same river, and they're actually on the same stretch of the river, but the boat race does it in reverse instead. So the boat race is head-to-head between Oxford University Boat Club and Cambridge University Boat Club. So it is just a competition between them two. And they're racing side by side, and it attracts around 200,000 to 250,000 spectators, and that's not including people watching on national TV. And I can say from being there that the Head of the River race did not have anywhere near that, though it was still enjoyable and it was still fun. But yeah, like I said, the Head of the River race is a time trial, so they aren't racing each other, they're racing the clock.
Well, I mean, you've made us really want to attend the next Head of the River race, so thank you so much for joining us. And last but not least, we're getting to talk about one of my favourite things, perfume. Over the past few years, there's been a rising interest in niche perfumeries as people seek out alternatives to big brands. So I spoke to 2 independent perfumers to learn about their love of fragrance. The perfume industry has long been rooted in the capital city, with many iconic fragrance houses starting up their brands in London. So I set out on a mission to explore the independent fragrance scene in London, discovering 2 iconic brands.
I'm Kate.
and I'm the owner and perfumer for Angela Flanders, the perfumery we're here today, which was started by my mother Angela, for who it's named, back in 1985 here on Columbia Road in the East End of London. So it's a flower market on a Sunday if you're not familiar with the road, and I think that probably was part of what inspired her journey and began our journey into fragrance. Perfume has become obviously very central in my life. So I worked alongside Mum as she was teaching herself and teaching me and building up her business, which is we now have a range of about 40 different fragrances. And so I think it becomes very captivating. I think once you begin to get involved in the world of fragrance, whether it's just you have a great appreciation of perfumes, or whether you begin to get involved in maybe creating them, it's a very captivating subject, and I think once you really delve in and get started, it's something that you find you kind of can't leave behind. So we've always been London based as a perfumery, and our story, as I mentioned, started 40 years ago here on Columbia Road. And so our very kind of our brand and our concept really grew out of being here in this particular place. And this is the original shop. We still work here. We have the shop that's open at weekends. We create the perfumes here. We bottle and we make our perfume candles and other products. So for us, London is very, very central to our inspirations and our whole business. We've always been an independent business and now second generation and still independent. So I suppose our experience of the big perfume family or the big perfume world has always been from our kind of smaller, more independent perspective. In the last particularly 5 years or so, it's such a big growth in the interest in niche perfumery and independent perfume brands. I think the consumer has also got captivated with fragrance, and I think they are seeking out something that is a little bit different or that you don't see everywhere. I think there's also a great interest in building a fragrance wardrobe, maybe having more than just one signature scent that you wear, and looking to have 2 or 3 perfumes or maybe more from different collections, whether it is something much more well-known and mainstream or something much more independent.
Deemed as one of the first independents in London, Angela's brand inspired many others, such as Sarah McCartney.
I'm Sarah McCartney, and I founded 4160 Tuesdays. I make the perfumes, 99% of them. Occasionally I let someone else do it. So here we are in Hammersmith, and this is where 4160 Tuesdays is based. I also use this space to teach other people how to make perfume, and online. So I have another brand called Synthusiasm, which is the sharing and teaching part. So here we are actually in London, because lots of brands that have London on the name aren't. They don't manufacture in London. We actually do it here. The advantage is that there are so many people around. The disadvantage is... no, I can't think of any. I didn't do that whole let's make perfume out of petals in the garden thing. I just wanted to make magic potions to make interesting things happen. So I think I've come to that, really, that fragrance for me is I can evoke a place or a time, or both a place and a time, and put it into a bottle and let it free, and then that atmosphere becomes that place and time for somebody else who then walks through it. So I like the way fragrance can evoke other places, whether they're real or imaginary or future or past. I see it as my way to bring my imaginings to reality.
Yumna, I found that quite interesting to hear about independent perfumeries and what they go through in quite a competitive market. But can you tell us why it's important to support independent perfume brands and not just opt for the big ones?
Well, I mean, there's many reasons, but I think the first one would be that with an independent perfume brand, it's usually a small team of people, rather than if you have a big corporate brand, there's God knows how many people on the team in working for the brand. So that's the first aspect, that it will be a small group. It may be their only source of income, it may be their only job, and so you want to support that. Also, going on how obviously they don't have lots of people working for them, they might not have as much ability to market their products or promote their products, whereas if you go to some high street brand like Dior or Chanel, they've got marketing teams who do all that for them. So when these places don't have that opportunity, don't have that ability as much, I feel like we should really support those. And then lastly, I feel going to an independent shop where it's a lot smaller, it's again not that many fragrances, you get a more bespoke and personal experience in choosing your scent rather than just a sales associate trying to get the money out of you. You know, if you're going to a mainstream shop, they're just going to be trying to get you to pay more, get you to get to the next size up to hit their targets, which is fair enough. But if you go to an independent brand, they will actually take the time to really understand what you like and understand what you want, which I can say firsthand from when I went to both these stores.
So perfume is something that people sort of go crazy about all over the world, but what do you think is the single best thing about the hobby?
Well, I mean, going on from what Sarah McCartney said in the video, it's about evoking memories and sparking new ideas. You know, a lot of the time people buy fragrances for important occasions, often weddings or anniversaries or birthdays or something like that. Like, it's almost always connected to an occasion. So fragrance really holds memories and holds stories. So I think that is like just what's so amazing about it. And then with Angela, she, like a typical person who's like a fragrance head, who's obsessed with fragrance, said a day without fragrance doesn't really feel right, doesn't feel like, you feel like you're missing something, and I can definitely vouch for that.
So can you tell us a bit more about the two perfumeries' journeys and how they differ?
Yeah, so with Angela Flanders, it is now run by her daughter Kate, but Angela started it when initially she was working on Columbia Road Market making potpourri, and then she essentially just wanted to develop those skills into making fragrances because they're both about smell. And then with Sarah McCartney from 4160 Tuesdays, her story was a bit weirder. She mentioned it in the video, but she used to stick, when she was 2, she stuck flower buds up her nose.
Oh, wow.
And because, as she claimed, she just wanted that scent to remain in her constantly. So she wanted, that obviously was not healthy and she had to go to the doctors and, you know, get that removed. But yeah, so from there, that kind of sparked it. And then she said when she was young, she wanted to create magic potions, and I guess that naturally led to making fragrance. And then what was really sweet and really wholesome is that she told me that Angela Flanders actually visited Sarah at some of her showcases when she first started out. So they had a relationship, and she has a relationship with Kate as well now. And Angela Flanders is seen as one of the first independents in London, so it's just a really nice full circle moment.
So how do the pricing strategies differ between independent brands and the more big name brands?
So with independent brands, I mean, it depends on the brand. Some mainstream brands will normally make it higher in price because of the name. If you think of Louis Vuitton, their fragrances are like £200 plus. But then also you have strength, which comes into play because you have different concentrations of fragrance, and the less alcohol that is in a fragrance and more oil, concentrated fragrance oil, that's more expensive. When I looked at Angela Flanders and 4160 Tuesdays, they were relatively priced similar to mainstream fragrances. For example, like Dior, Valentino, often their 30ml start at about £75, and Angela Flanders was about 85 for the same size. And then as well, I just think a lot of brands, like I said, they hike the price because of the name, but also big companies can then, on the other hand, lower their price because it's not their only stream of income. Like, you know, again, going back to the same Chanel, Dior, Tom Ford, they have beauty and they have skincare and fashion and all these other things that is how they make their money. But with brands like Angela Flanders and Sarah's that are independent, they have this as their main source of income. So I think it's a lot more worth it to support them, but it makes sense if they're priced higher.
So, being the fragrance expert that you are, what scents would you recommend from both perfumeries to someone?
I'm so glad you asked, and I actually have them here today. So from Angela Flanders, it's Cashmere Noir. So Cashmere Noir has iris, cedarwood and amber in it. It's a very earthy, woody smell, and it just lingers on the skin beautifully. So I'll give that to you to smell.
Oh wow.
Right, there you go. And if you want to spray a little bit on yourself. It's just a little.
Yeah, it's very woody.
Yeah, very woody, but that's the type of scent I like. And then from 4,160 Tuesdays, it was Oh My Soul, which has frankincense, musk and vanilla in it. So it's a lot more of a warmer scent, but still has a sweet undertone.
Yeah, very sweet. It smells almost like sweets,
Yeah, basically.
Very nice. Well, Yumna, thanks for your expert knowledge about perfumes. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for today at London's News. Make sure to follow us on our social media and read our 4 websites dedicated to stories from across the capital. Bye.